Hello everyone, it's Paisley Lincoln. It's been a while since I've been on the channel, but I'm back, and today we are going to be reading a new book, and we're going to be reading a series actually. So I'm really excited. I'm going to try to stay a little committed to the series. So yeah, I did already finish. I already forgot what the book was called. I'm so sorry. I Know Your Secret. It's been a while, like I said earlier, but yeah, I've already finished that book off camera, but if you guys would like, I definitely will try to finish it on camera. I'll see where we left off. Also to a lot of people or some people, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Paisley Lincoln, and I read books for YouTube practically. So yeah, we're gonna start. But first, you can't really see me today. First, we're gonna get hydrated. Got my water. And yeah, now make sure to stay healthy. I got an orange here. You can't really see it, can you? Okay, that was really good. And last and most important, make sure to stay sanitized and keep your hands sanitized. Because we want to make sure that we all stay healthy. And we don't want to get sick or anything. So definitely be sure to use this roll a lot. Because we don't want anyone getting sick. There we go. I got a new mic, so hopefully that kind of helps. But yeah. Oops, sorry. I accidentally shoved my headphones off. It's really early for me right now. It's 7:40. But minus all this dilly-dallying, let's start reading. Today we're going to be reading chapters 1 through 4. You could see that in the description. The title ended up being super long because the book title is really long. The title of this book is I'd Tell You I Love You, but then I'd Have to Kill You. So yeah, I'm not sure. I definitely know there's violence. We all know that. And I'm not sure if there's any foul language. I definitely should have researched that, so that'll be something I really need to focus on in the future. But yeah. So if you want to know how much chapters we're reading, we're only gonna probably read 4 chapters. That's my main goal, because 4 chapters is at least 30 to 40 pages already. So yeah. Okay, now we are done with all the dilly-dallying. Let's actually start reading. Ali Carter. I'll tell you I love you, but then I'd have to kill you. I was a little confused at first. This is made by I think Ali Carter, and the series is Gallagher Girls. I can't pronounce it. I'm really sorry. I'll add more in the description later on in the live stream. So yeah. Chapter 1. I suppose a lot of teenage girls feel invisible sometimes. Like they just disappear. Well, that's me, Cammy the chameleon. But I'm luckier than most because at my school, that's considered cool. I go to a school for spies. Of course, technically, the Gallagher Academy for Exceptional Young Women is a school for geniuses, not spies, and we're free to pursue any career that benefits our exceptional educations. But when a school tells you that, and then teachers you wait, what? I'm so sorry. And then teachers you things like advanced encryption and 14 different languages, it's kind of like big tobacco telling kids not to smoke. So all of us Gallagher girls know lip service when we hear it. Even my mom rolls her eyes, but doesn't correct me when I call it spy school, and she's the head mistress. Of course, she's also a retired CIA operative, and it was her idea for me to write this. My first covert operations report to summarize what happened last semester. She's always telling us that the worst part of the spy life isn't the danger, it's the paperwork. After all, when you're on a plane home from Istanbul with a nuclear warhead in a hat box, the last thing you want to do is write a report about it. So that's why I'm writing this. For the practice. If you've got a level 4 clearance or higher, you probably know all about us Gallagher girls. Since we've been around for more than 100 years, the school, not me. I'll turn 16 next month. But if you don't have that kind of clearance, then you probably think we're just an urban spy myth, like jetpacks and invisibility suits, and you drive by our ivy-covered walls, look at our gorgeous mansion and manicured grounds, and assume, like everyone else, that the Gallagher Academy for Exceptional Young Women is just a snooty boarding school for bored heiresses with no place else to go. Sorry, I'm adjusting my light. Sorry, continuing on. Well, to tell you the truth, we're totally fine with that. It's one of the reasons no one in town of Roseville, Virginia, thought twice about the long line of limousines that brought my classmates back to school last September. I watched from the window seat on the third floor of the mansion as the cars materialized out of blankets of green foliage and turned through the towering iron gates. The half-mile-long driveway curved through the hills, looking as harmless as Dorothy's yellow brick road, not giving a clue that it's equipped with laser beams that read tire treads and sensors that check for explosives, and one entire section that can open up and swallow a truck whole. If you think that's dangerous, don't even get me started about the pond. I wrapped my arms around my knees and stared through the window's wavy glass. The red velvet curtains were drawn around the tiny alcove, and I was enveloped by an odd sense of peace, knowing that in 20 minutes the corridors were going to be crowded. Music was going to be blaring, and I was going to go from being an only child to one of 100 sisters. So I knew to savor the silence that while it lasted. Then, as if to prove my point, a loud blast and the smell of burning hair came floating up the main stairs from the second floor, Hall of History, followed by Professor Buckingham's distinguishing voice, carrying, "Girls, I told you not to touch that." The smell got worse, and one of the 7th graders was probably still on fire, because Professor Buckingham yelled, stand still, I say." Then Professor Buckingham said some French swear words that the 7th graders probably wouldn't understand for 3 semesters, and I remembered how every year during new student orientation, one of the newbies will get cocky and try to show off by grabbing the sword. Gillian Gallagher used to slay the guy who was going to kill Abraham Lincoln. The first guy. That is the one you never hear about. But what the newbies aren't told on their tour of the school grounds is that Gilly's sword is charged with enough electricity to, well, light your hair on fire. I just love the start of school. I think our room used to be an attic once upon a time. It had these cool clothes and oddly shaped windows and lots of little nooks and crannies where a girl can sit with her back against the wall and listen to the thundering feet and squeals of hello that are probably pretty standard at boarding schools everywhere on the first day after summer break. They probably stop being standard when they take place in Portuguese and Farsi. Out in the hall, Kim Lee was talking about her summer in Singapore, and Tina Walters was declaring that Cairo was super cool. Johannesburg, not so much. Which is exactly what my mom had said when I complained about how Tina's parents were taking her to Africa over summer, whereas I was going to have to visit my dad's parents on their ranch in Nebraska. In experience, I'm fairly sure will never help me break out of enemy interrogation facility or disarm a dirty bomb. Hey, where's Cammy? Tina asked, but I wasn't about to leave my room until I could come up with a story to match the international exploits of my classmates, 70% of whom, I don't know why I said whom, 70% of whom are the daughters of current or former government operatives, aka spies. Even Courtney Barr had spent a week in Paris, and her parents are both optometrists. So you can see why I wasn't especially eager to admit that I'd spent 3 months plopped down right in the middle of North America cleaning fish. I'd finally decided to tell them about the time I was experimenting with average household items that can be used as weapons and accidentally decapitated a scarecrow. Who knew knitting needles could do that kind of Who knew knitting needles could do that kind of damage? Then I heard the distinctive thud of luggage crashing into a wall and a soft southern, "Oh, Cammy, come out wherever you are." I peered around the corner and saw Liz posing in the doorway, trying to look like Miss Alabama, but bearing a greater resemblance to a toothpick in capri trousers and flip-flops. A very red toothpick. She smiled and said, "Did you miss me?" Well, I did miss her. Oh my god, my light. I'm so sorry. I cannot see in the dark, and this keeps falling on my head, and it really hurts. Really bad. Okay. Oh my god. I'm very sorry about that. Where was I? Oh. Did you miss me? Well, I did miss her, but I was totally afraid to hug her. What happened to you? Liz rolled her eyes and just said, "Don't fall asleep by a pool in Alabama," as if she should have known better, which she totally should have. I mean, we're all technically geniuses and everything, but at age 9, Liz had the highest score on the 3rd grade achievement tests ever. Wait, aren't you supposed to be in 4th grade by 9? Minus that. Sorry, I had thought. Ever. The government keeps track of that kind of thing. So the summer before 7th grade, her parents got a visit from some big guys in dark suits, and 3 months later, Liz was a Gallagher girl. Just not the kill a man with her bare hands variety. If I'm ever on a mission, I want Bex beside me and Liz far, far away, with about a dozen computers and a chessboard. A fact I couldn't help but remember when Liz tried to fling her suitcase onto the bed, but missed and ended up knocking over a bookcase, demolishing my stereo, and flattening a perfect scaled replica of DNA that I'd made out of a paper mache in 8th grade. Oopsie daisy, Liz said, throwing her hand to her mouth. Sure, she knows swear words in 14 different languages, but when faced with a minor catastrophe, Liz says oopsie daisy. At that point, I didn't care how sunburned she was. I had to hug my friend. At 6:30 exactly, we were in our uniforms, sliding our hands over the smooth mahogany banisters and descending down the staircases that spiraled gracefully to the foyer floor. Everyone was laughing. Turns out my knitting needle story was a big hit, but Liz and I kept looking towards the door in the center of the atrium below. Maybe there was trouble with the plane, Liz whispered. Or customs. Or I'm sure she's just late. I nodded and continued glancing down at the foyer as if, on cue, Bex was going to burst through the doors, but they stayed closed, and Liz's voice got squeakier as she asked, Did you hear from her? I didn't hear from her. Why didn't we hear from her? Well, I wouldn't have been more surprised if we had heard from her. To tell you the truth, as soon as Bex had told us that both her mom and her dad were taking a leave of absence to spend the summer with her, I knew she wasn't going to be much of a pen pal. Leave it to Liz to come a completely different conclusion. Oh my gosh, what if she dropped out? Liz cranked up the worry in her voice. Did she get kicked out? Why would you think that? Well, she said, stumbling over the obvious, Bex always has been kind of rule optional. Liz shrugged, and sadly, I couldn't disagree. And why else would she be late? Gallagher girls are never late. Cammy, you know something, don't you? You've got to know something. Times like this are when it's no fun being the headmistress's daughter because A, it's totally annoying when people think I'm in a loop I'm not in, and B, people who always assume I'm in a partnership with the staff, which really I'm not. Sure, I have private dinners with my mom on Sunday nights, and sometimes she leaves me alone in her office for 5 hours, but that's it. Whenever a school is in session, I'm just another Gallagher girl, except for being the girl whom the aforementioned A and B apply. I looked back down at the front doors and then turned to Liz. I bet she's just late, I said, praying that there would be a pop quiz over supper. Nothing distracts Liz faster than a pop quiz. As we approached the massive open doors of the grand hall where the Gilly Gallaghers supposedly poisoned a man at her own ball, I involuntarily glanced up at the electronic screen that read English American, even though I knew we always talk in our own language and accents for the welcome back dinner. Our mealtime conversations wouldn't be taking place in Chinese Mandarin for at least a week, I hoped. We settled at our usual table in the grand hall, and I finally felt at home. Of course, I'd actually been back for 3 weeks, but my only company had been the newbies and the staff. The only thing worse than being the only upperclassman in a mansion full of 7th graders is hanging out in the teacher's lounge, watching your ancient languages professor put drops in the ears of the world's foremost authority on data encryption, while he swears he'll never go scuba diving again. Ew. Mental picture of Mr. Musquatwitz in a wetsuit. Gross. Since a girl can only read so many books, since a girl can only read so many back issues of espionage today, I usually spent those pre-semester days wandering around the mansion, discovering hidden compartments and secret passageways that are at least 100 years old and haven't seen a good dusting in about that long. Mostly I tried to spend time with my mom, but she'd been super busy and totally distracted. Remembering this now, I thought about Bex's mysterious absence and suddenly began to worry that maybe Liz had been onto something, and Anna Fetcherman squeezed into the bench next to Liz and asked, "Have you seen it? Did you look?" Anna was holding a blue slip of paper that instantly dissolves when you put it in your mouth. Even though if it looks like it will taste like candy floss, it doesn't. Trust me. I don't know why they always put our class schedules on Eva paper. Probably so we can use up our stash of the bad tasting kind and move on to the good stuff, like mint chocolate chip. Sorry, my throat is real bad. But Anna wasn't thinking about Eva flavor when she yelled, "We have covert operations." She sounded absolutely terrified, and I remembered that she was probably the only Gallagher girl that Liz could take in a fist fight. I looked at Liz, and even she rolled her eyes at Anna's hysterics. After all, everyone knows the sophomore year is the first time we get to do anything that even approaches actual field work. It is our first exposure to real spy stuff. But it seems to be forgetting that the class itself was sadly kind of easy peasy. "I'm pretty sure we can handle it," Liz soothed, prying the paper from Anna's frail hands. "All Buckingham does is tell horror stories about all the stuff we saw in World War II and shows slides, remember? Even since she broke her hip. She's But Buckingham is out," and exclaimed, and this got my attention. I'm sure I stared at her for a second or two before saying, "Professor Buckingham is still here, Anna," not adding that I spent half of the morning coaxing Onyx, her cat, down from the top shelf of the staff library. That's got to be just the start of school rumor. There were always plenty of those, like how some girl got kidnapped by terrorists, or one of the staff members won $100,000 on